Good day, everyone. Eric Olsen from Helps YouTube Live. Welcome to YouTube Live today on February 25th, 2025. Glad to have you here. Hope you can hear me okay. If you can, let me know in the chat features that you can hear me clearly. My name's Eric, attorney for 46 years now, and the founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. If you're a senior struggling with debt or disabled with debt, you can listen to this channel and what we have to talk about. Our most important message to seniors is that your Social Security and your pension, your disability, your VA benefits is protected by federal and state laws. It can't be taken from you. And what Helps does is we represent seniors and disabled persons under a federal law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act to prevent debt collectors from calling or harassing you anymore or sending you demand letters. And that law provides if you're represented by an attorney, collectors have to leave you alone. We let the collector know that your income is Social Security or a pension, whatever it is, and you can't afford to pay the debt. Okay, and that's what Helps does. And we also educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. When people enroll in Helps, they get our help ongoing, literally forever. So if they ever have a question or concern, they can always call us, no matter how often. So if you have a question, you can put it in the chat feature. I know a lot of you talk amongst you, and that's great. And I try to pick out the questions and answer them. And then I've got things to talk about. And the title for today I put down, and someone wrote, and their comment was, well, Eric, if our income is protected and they can't take anything, why would someone ever sue me? Why would someone sue me? It's a good question. And if you've been listening to me a while, you probably know the reason. But I'll explain why. A lot of seniors don't realize that their income is safe and protected. Okay? They don't know. And no one tells them that. Okay, no one tells them their income is safe and protected. So a lot of seniors are under the impression that their Social Security could be at risk, their pension could be at risk, their bank account could be at risk, they could lose some assets, and so they're scared. And so when a creditor threatens a lawsuit or they get sued, then they call the creditor, make arrangements to make payments, sometimes, putting themselves into utter poverty, making a payment that they don't need to make. Because nothing the creditor can't collect from them. Even if they sued and got a judgment, they're judgment proof. They can't take their money. Okay. One thing we tell seniors is that there was a federal law put into effect in 2012 that instructs banks that twice the amount of your Social Security, your federal benefit, deposited into a bank account is automatically protected from garnishment, regardless of whether funds are in there or where they came from. So if you got $1,800 in Social Security each month, $1,800 times 2 is $3,600. That amount is protected from garnishment no matter what happens. So, and the banks and credit unions understand that rule. Although yesterday I did get a call from someone, I happened to speak to him myself. In fact, I enrolled him myself. A lady from, can't remember, was it somewhere back east, New Jersey? Could have been New York. And she was younger, but she's on Social Security disability. And she got about, I think a little bit over $2,000 in Social Security. And her two children got like $1,600 each in Social Security. And she had two bank accounts. She had a bank account into which her Social Security went, and she had a bank account into which her children's Social Security went. And a creditor had sued her earlier, and they filed a writ of garnishment on her bank, which was with the credit union. Well, lo and behold, the credit union, this was last week, held up the money, okay? And it was the middle of last week. And she talked to the credit union and to several people, and they all said, well, the court order says that we have to hold that. We don't have any other choice, okay? Now, we used to hear this story years ago when this law went into effect in 2012 for the next 5 to 8 years or 10 years. We haven't heard it. I haven't heard that story for a long time, but this credit union is apparently really fouled up and messed up. They don't understand the rule. And if there is ever a problem, it is with a credit union, but it's pretty rare even with a credit union now. They pretty much understand the rule. So I sent her a copy of we have a couple of detailed emails. I said, show this to the credit union. And then when she decided to enroll, we're going to reach out to the credit union ourselves and give them this information and say, listen, this money's protected. You got to release it for this lady. Now, she had two different bank accounts, but both accounts received different Social Security money. So all the bank is instructed to do, or the credit union is to examine the bank account. If there's a federal benefit went in there like Social Security, they times that times two, and that amount is protected automatically from garnishment. And there's no reason they would have held up any of these monies. Now, I told her they technically had 48 hours to examine the account, and they had taken a lot longer than that. Usually they take 48 minutes because it's so automatic now. But apparently she's dealing with a credit union. Someone there, maybe someone was sick. Who knows? That I told her, I said, the person that handles the garnishments in the credit union, they should understand this rule. And she said, well, I talked to this person the part that handled the garnishments, and they didn't know anything about it. They said, no, they were wrong. And I said, no, I have a hard time believing that. But anyway, I instructed her, I said, gave her some forms that you need to fill out to challenge the garnishment anyway. I think it was maybe New York. And but in the meantime, since she enrolled, we're going to reach out to the credit union directly, and she'll get this money back. Or they're going to release it to her. They may have released it to her by now. Okay. But I always, when I talk to people about this, I'll say, if there's 1,000 attorneys, I'm guessing that 999 or 998 out of 1,000 attorneys don't understand this rule. Okay. They don't understand the rule that if your federal benefit goes into a bank account, it's automatically protected from garnishment. Okay. No matter what other monies are in there. Okay. It used to be the rule that if you had money in a bank account and you commingled monies from another source, then all the money was tainted and could be garnished. Well, that's no longer the case. If you have Social Security going in your bank account and you have other monies that came from any other source, even if it wasn't technically protected, as long as it's less than twice the amount of the federal benefit in the account, it's protected. Okay. And there's a department in the bank that knows the rule, but I guarantee your bank manager doesn't know the rule. And the clerk, so that's the rule. Okay. So you don't need to worry about your money being garnished. Okay. If it's in a bank account, if someone sues you and gets a judgment. Yeah, the automatic protection applies to the account into which it's deposited. It's coded. You're right. That's exactly right. So April asks, Mother has her Visa at Truist. She also has her checking there. Would opening a checking account at another bank help her? Well, if she's not going to pay the Visa at Truist, Truist will could offset her money in her bank account to pay the credit card bill. So now other banks don't do that. There's a banking rule that tells a bank that they cannot offset money out of your account to pay a debt that you owe the bank unless you gave them permission to do that. And while credit unions sign a form where you give them permission to do that, whether you realize you signed it or not, banks don't do that, with one exception that we're aware of, and that's Truist Bank. They started doing that. So we always tell people that enroll with HELPS, if they have a debt with Truist Bank they're not going to pay, then you need to get your Social Security or your pension going into a different bank account where you don't owe money. Okay. Okay. So why would they sue me? Well, okay. So they count on you not knowing your rights. Okay. I think I'm going to show you something here. Okay. Here's an article I saw this morning. It's from February 15th from USA Today. And it's a good example of why seniors don't get right information. Now, USA Today, it's a newspaper. They've got a big website, a reliable source of information, right? So it says nearly every retirement age American is in debt, how it happened, and how to cut costs. Okay. So this is the solution by Daniel DeVise. Updated today, looks like, or a couple days ago. Wait a minute here. I'm not able to scroll down. Well, maybe it's a little slow. Oh, I lost it. Well, I'll tell you about it. Article talks about how 97% of seniors, maybe I can crop it up here, 90% of seniors have incomes owe debt. Okay, let's see here. Well, I'll look at this one. Here's one. We'll look at this one. See if I got this one. Nope. Can't do it. I'll try to do it. I'm getting better on the computer as I get older. Anyway, this article talks about how 97% of the seniors carry debt, and it actually has a breakdown, and it's quite a bit of money, $10,000, $11,000, $12,000, and explains why. And in the entire article, it talks about how to reduce expenses to be able to pay debt. But nowhere in this article does it ever explain to a senior, by the way, just so you know, your Social Security is safe, so is your pension. If you weren't able to pay this debt for any reason, they can't take that from you. Does it explain that very basic fact? No. There's almost like a concerted effort between the media and debt collectors to hide the information about your income being protected from seniors. Okay, it's very rarely can you find that anywhere, but it's there. Even companies that supposedly help seniors don't tell them that. AARP, they don't talk about that. National Council on Aging definitely does not talk about that. And yet their mission is to protect seniors, especially those that are suffering financially. But their articles never tell a senior, by the way, your Social Security is protected, so is your pension, and if you're lower income or poor and you can't afford to pay this debt, you don't need to. And those are the seniors that are having the problems. So to answer the question, why do they sue me if my income's protected? Well, because they count on you not knowing your rights. Okay? They count on you not knowing your rights. And a debt collector doesn't have to tell you that your income is protected. All they have to say is we're a debt collector and any information we use can be used for that purpose. Okay? So that's why seniors are sued whose income is protected, because debt collectors know that the vast majority of these seniors don't understand their rights, and maybe they can shake them down into making payments. Okay? So that's the deal. But you guys know now that your income is protected, it's safe, and it can't be taken. So I explained how this person who enrolled yesterday had these two Social Security. She got Social Security for her children and Social Security for her. And she was the signer for the children's account. They were minors. And yet the credit union was holding up the money. We'll get it released. It's very unusual for that to happen. But Someone at the credit union didn't understand the law and didn't know what they're doing. Okay. So this person writes in, they're 80 some years old and they're widowed, and they have over $50,000 in credit card debt, behind on their credit cards for several months. And she's not responding to calls or emails. Didn't know what to do. My Social Security is right around $1,500 a month, exceed my income. And she's looking for some work to supplement her income. And she's been selling some of her personal items, jewelry, china, to make ends meet. And she has a mortgage on the home that she wants to keep. She can't find any place to rent that would be cheaper than what she has now. And she says there's a lot of memories in the home and I don't know what to do. So what would I be telling this person that's 80 years old, 80 some years old, widowed, limited to like $1,500 to $1,600 in income, not enough money, and she has $50,000 in credit card debt? First off, I'd say you don't need to worry about the credit card debt. Okay, you don't have to pay it. Now, if she's been paying it, that money will be available to her to pay for these basics that she has. But even it seems like the basics soak up all her money. And then she has a mortgage on her home, and she wants to keep the home. But she's over 80 years old. What could possibly be an answer to help her? Well, one thing we might ask her is, you're buying this home. How much do you owe on the home? Maybe she says, well, I owe, $30,000 on the home. What's your payment? Well, my payment's, $500 per month. That comes out of her meager $1,500 or $1,600 a month she gets from Social Security. Well, how much is the home worth? Well, the home's worth $200,000, Mr. Olsen. But I want to keep my home. Well, one thing we might mention to her, we might say, you could look at what's called a reverse mortgage. Now, I don't sell reverse mortgages. Before I started Helps, I didn't know a whole lot about them. I knew the basics, but I know a lot about them now, and sometimes they're an answer to prayer for seniors. I tell her, I say, what a reverse mortgage could do is pay off your first mortgage so you no longer have a mortgage payment anymore. And depending on how much equity you have in your home, it could give you access to a line of credit that you could add supplement your income a little bit. And you could own the home to the day you die. You still own it. You could still sell it. Some people are in the misconception when you get a reverse mortgage, you no longer own the home, the bank does. That's not true. You still own the home. Reverse mortgage, you don't have to have perfect credit to get a reverse mortgage. Reverse mortgage could provide to pay your property taxes. But in this instance, if this person didn't have to make a $500 house payment anymore, that puts $500 more in their pocket, and they could stay in the home as what she wishes to do. So, we have information about reverse mortgages. Obviously, we don't sell them. I don't care if someone gets them. It's totally up to them. But where it makes sense, I want people to know about it, okay? And that's why we tell people about it. And that's why we try to correct misconceptions about reverse mortgages. A lot of people, I've read a number of articles, haven't recently, but because when I see these articles, I dispute them whenever I see them. They say, well, reverse mortgage is the worst mistake you can make. Well, a reverse mortgage isn't for everyone, but for some people, it is. It makes sense. They're a little bit more difficult to get nowadays because the interest rate has gone up. Not that you have to make a payment with a reverse mortgage, you don't, but it just makes that, in order to qualify a reverse mortgage, you may have to have a little bit more equity in the home. Okay, it may have to be worth more money vis-a-vis what you owe on the home. But anyway, that's what I'd be telling this person. That way, she doesn't have to worry about the credit card debt. All her money is going to be available for her needs. She could stop selling her jewelry and her china, her personal possessions, which are only going to last so long, she'd be able to keep the home. Okay? Okay, here we go. If you file a Chapter 7, is there a limit on what you can have in the bank when you file? Thanks. Sure. Bankruptcy is a federal law, okay? But the exemptions the assets that you can keep when you file a bankruptcy, most of those exemptions are state laws. Although there are federal exemptions, and a state can opt to have the federal exemptions and the state exemptions both, or they can just say, we're going to just pick one or the other. Okay? So it depends on the state. But the vast majority of seniors that we talk to have no need to file bankruptcy. In fact, I filed 30 or 40,000 bankruptcies before HELPS was started. Did that for years. I started practice in 1978 and then did everything until 1980, and I did a lot of bankruptcies early on. Then finally in 86, I realized that, there was a lot of people with financial problems that needs help, and I got rid of all the other part of my practice and focused completely 100% on bankruptcy. Did that for, 25 years until HELPS was started. And my old firm is still in existence. It's the biggest firm in the state where I live. And so a lot of seniors would come to me, and I'd tell them, well, you don't need to file bankruptcy. All your income is protected. No one can touch your Social Security. No one can touch your pension. But I knew when I sent them home, debt collectors could call them and make their lives miserable. And then bankruptcy became more expensive in 2004 when the Bankruptcy Reform Act was passed, and it almost doubled the cost of bankruptcy because it made some more requirements. Okay. And it became more expensive. Then in 2008, when the Great Recession hit, a lot of seniors were affected negatively. Their pensions were decreased, or they lost their job, or equities went down in properties. And so it was a desperate time for many people. And that's around the time when HELPS was started, so that actually we didn't get rolling till 2012 to be able to represent seniors so they didn't have to deal with debt collectors anymore. And that's what HELPS does. We represent seniors who owe debt under a federal law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, so that debt collectors can't call or send you demand letters anymore. And we represent you ongoing, not just one time, literally forever, so you don't have to deal with creditors. We don't turn anyone away. The cost is minimal. Our sole focus is to protect seniors. Too bad there isn't a law you can't sue after that age 65. Well, there isn't a law, but in a lot of ways it doesn't matter if you're sued or not. I mean, we don't like when our clients are sued. We don't want them to be sued, but I tell some people it doesn't matter if you get sued by 100 different creditors. They can't do anything to you. But it's not fun to have someone knock on the door and serve you with papers. I understand that. I think it makes it less likely that you would be sued if you enroll in HELPS. When you enroll in HELPS, you're going to give us the collectors or creditors to whom you owe money. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter. Part of that letter tells them that your income is protected at Social Security. You can't afford to pay the debt. So I think if anyone reads that letter, they'll realize, if we sue this person, it's going to be a waste of our money. But a lot of times I don't think they read the letter. Okay, so it's not unusual for our clients to get sued, but if you get sued, you don't need to worry. You're not going to have to go to court. They can't do anything to you. And when one of our clients gets sued, they call us on the phone. We have them send us the paperwork. We explain to them why their income's protected. We send them information, explaining why they don't need to go to court and what their rights are. And we explain this to them on the phone so they don't need to worry. And we always tell them, if you ever are worried or concerned, you call us. Okay? So the money in your bank account is protected in the account into which it is deposited. That's why sometimes I'll tell seniors, you know, you don't need to worry about it unless you're sued. But if you're sued, you just want to have one account. And maybe that's the checking account into which your Social Security goes. And then don't have a savings account, or just have $5 in it. Just have the minimum. That way, if you did get garnished, if they took money out of your savings account, you could get it back, but you'd have to file some paperwork to get it back, and sometimes that can be a headache. And you get so very little interest on the savings account, it's just easier to protect it by not having a savings account. Okay? Is there a limit on your savings, Eric, if your only income has been Social Security for this and you get a judgment? Well, there really is no limit on your savings account, as if you can trace the money if it came from your Social Security. I suppose technically, if you had savings account and Social Security went in there, that maybe some of the money in your savings account could be interest, which isn't technically protected. But the easy way to solve the problem is just keep the money in the account to which Social Security just deposited. And you don't need to worry about that if you haven't been sued. If you're sued, remember, you can call us and we can go over this. Okay. What if I have a separate brokerage account with $30,000? Okay. Well, it depends on your state. It may or may not be protected. I've never seen a stock brokerage account garnished in 46 years of practice. Okay? See, judgment creditors that sue people, about the only thing they normally do is just, if they happen to know where your bank, they try to garnish the bank account, maybe. Okay? Now, if you're a helps client, they may not even bother with doing that. But let's say you had another asset, like an equity in a home. Maybe your home was free and clear. And the homestead exemption in your state is $50,000. The home is worth $150,000. So you got $100,000 extra equity in your home. Are they going to come take your home? No, they don't do that. Could they? Well, it's theoretically possible for them to file a writ of execution and do that, but in practice, they just don't do that for a lot of different reasons. Maybe the home is owned as home by a husband and wife. The judgment is just against the husband. No, it's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors to go after your other forms of property, even if you have access in that property, like equity in a car, over and above the exemption for the state where you live. Okay? For a lot of different reasons. When opening a new checking account, how long does it take for Social Security to start depositing a new account? Well, there might be a different opinion, but the general rule is if you make the change before the 10th of the month, by the following month, your Social Security should go into the right account. Now, if you were going to ask someone from the Social Security this, they'd probably tell you, well, it's going to take 60 days. And that's a safe answer for them to give. But it very likely could take less than 60 days. If you do it by the 10th, normally by the next month, it'll go into the right account. Okay? Does that mean you have to keep making the payment to the bank where you owe money? No, the bank isn't going to offset any money, or a credit union won't offset any money from your account unless you're several months behind. Okay? So you could let the money go in there, and when it hits your old account, you could pull it out and put it into your new account. So this person contacts us from Michigan. They say, I was supposed to pay this collection company payments of like $250 to pay a debt. I quit paying them, and after about 8 or 9 payments, they took my Michigan tax refund of $800, which means I now, and they sent me a notice in which they intend to keep taking my Michigan tax refund until I pay the amount. Can I make a complaint against them for unfair business practices or something like that? Well, okay, I'll talk about this. This comes up in a while. Michigan is I did a video recently on different states and how they protect seniors, and Michigan is not on the high list. They don't protect people very well. They have a law in Michigan. They had a good intent. They have a law where they refund property taxes to lower income people, including seniors, if your income is under a certain amount. Okay. Now, you might say, well, Eric, I live in Michigan and I rent, therefore I don't pay property taxes. Well, this law says if you rent, we're going to attribute that some of your rent went to pay property taxes, therefore we're going to give you this refund. And it can be up $1,200 or more a year. And you normally have to file a tax refund to get it, but if you're not required to file, a tax return, if you're not required to file a tax return, then you can file another form and get the refund. Okay? Well, the problem with the law is the Michigan lawmakers allowed debt collectors to file writs of garnishment on the Michigan Revenue Department. So I think more seniors in Michigan get sued per capita than any other state in the union. Why is that? Because these debt collectors know, well, if we get a judgment against this person, then we can garnish their Michigan tax refund, property tax refund. Okay? And you're going to lose it. Okay? Now, what do you do about that? Well, if you're married, and the debt is just in one of your names, and the judgment is just against one spouse, and then the other spouse doesn't have the judgment, that spouse should file the tax refund. Okay? The only other way to stop it is, you could file a bankruptcy. Let's say you owed $10,000 or $20,000 and you were 65 years old and you were going to get this refund for the next 20 years or longer. Well, if you filed a bankruptcy, you could wipe out the debt. Therefore, you could get the refund from then. But you might not be able to file bankruptcy. You might not be able to afford it, or there might be other reasons. So that's the deal on Michigan tax refunds. With one hand, they give the senior the money. With the other hand, they take it back from them, or allow a debt collector to take it back. Is there any way to build up any credit without Chapter 7? I guess would be my main concern. Thank you. Okay, I'll talk about that for a second. If you've been listening to me, you've heard this answer, but that's okay. We like to repeat things on YouTube Live because we always have new listeners, and I think a lot of our old listeners like to hear it again. So when I started Helps back in 2012, in fact, I've got articles that talk about why seniors don't need credit. A lot of seniors don't need credit. Okay, they don't want credit anymore. One of the things we ask seniors that enroll in Helps, I say, if you have a credit card now with a small balance or nothing is owed, you could still keep that credit card as long as it's not backed by a bank with whom you have another debt that you're not going to pay. So a lot of seniors that enroll in Helps, they keep a credit card. Now, if they file a bankruptcy, all their credit's going to be shut off, whether they owe them anything or not. Credit card companies subscribe to a service that lets them know if someone filed bankruptcy, and they cut people off, even if there's nothing owed on the account. But with Helps, if you had a credit card that you wanted to keep, you could still keep it. But what if you wanted to try to rebuild your credit? Well, a few years ago, I've known a guy for a long time, Phil Tyrone, and I promised to have him on again. We had him on a little bit over a month ago. I'm going to have him on again. He developed a program for Helps that we pay him to offer to our clients that have been part of Helps for at least 90 days. And it's called 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score for Seniors. You can rebuild your credit in a year and a half, 2 years. Okay. Your credit is based on your recent credit history. Once a creditor wipes your debt or classify your debt as a bad debt, not collectible, then your credit report reflects on your recent credit, not the old credit. And you can actually get your credit back up to over $700 credit score. Okay? And we have an email that we send to prospective clients that talks about this program, or we send it to a client. And after you've been part of Helps for 90 days, then you can enroll in that program. Why do I have to wait 90 days, Eric? Well, because we want your debt needs to be behind before you start to rebuild your credit. Okay. A lot of seniors don't care about that, about rebuilding the credit, but some want to. They might want to. They might feel that they need to. Maybe they think they're going to save some. Maybe it's just important for them. Okay. So this person contacts us from like Tennessee. They have a MasterCard. They're being sued by LVNV Funding, which is a debt collector. This is notes from one of our paralegals. We discussed how their income was protected and explained to them why would they sue. They want to know, well, why would they sue me if my income's protected? Well, we explained why. Because they count on you not knowing your rights and being scared and calling them on the phone and making arrangements to make payments. And they know if they get a judgment, then they can sometimes be able to send other paperwork to scare people to call them to make payment arrangements. And the paralegal put down, she said, he may just want us to take the burden off his shoulders. That's what we do. We take burdens off of seniors' shoulders, the burden of debt, so they don't have to worry about it. So they don't have to worry about being called by a debt collector or getting these debt collection notices. Or if they get sued, they don't have to worry about having to go to court. They don't need to go to court. And they always have someone to call. So yeah, we do take the burden off of your shoulders. This particular person didn't have an email. So we mailed him some information. And he called back. Maybe today it looks like. He got sued, but he hadn't been served with the papers yet. How does he know he'd been sued? Because he got a solicitation letter from an attorney that files bankruptcy for people, letting him know that he was sued. That's how he found out he got sued. He says when he served with the summons, he'll get it to us. He owns a double wide trailer, and he has some other credit cards that he can't afford to pay. And he has one that he wants to keep. So no one's going to take his trailer. He's going to keep that. He's going to keep his Social Security, his little pension. He's not going to need to worry. Okay? And we'll represent him, so we'll send letters to the companies he owes money to so that they leave him alone, including the attorney that sued him, letting him know that his income's protected. Okay, this person comes in from I think Nebraska. They had a car that went back, and they got a letter saying how much they owed on the car after it was repossessed and sold at auction. It's called a deficiency notice. It says she took the vehicle back to the dealership because she could not pay it. She has received a paper requesting her signature stating that she is responsible for what's left over, or there could be legal action filed against her. The loan is with a credit union, but she does not bank with a credit union. That's interesting. Okay, I'll say this. Credit unions subscribe to the same stationery store. They all get their forms from the same place. And one of the forms they have, I've seen before, and this confirms it, is that if you have a car that's being repossessed, they send you a form saying, well, you realize we're going to sell that car, and if you owe us any money, you're going to owe that money, and you need to sign this notice stating that you understand that you're going to owe this money to us. You don't need to sign that. It's just a tactic from a credit union to try to intimidate you to, oh, I signed that, therefore I'm going to have to pay it. No, you can sign it if you want, but you don't have to pay it. Your income's protected. But it's the same form that credit unions use. Okay, but anyway, let's go on. Went over what we do in the bank account protection. Does she have to sign that and return that form? And the paralegal, this is what the paralegal wrote down. She could just ignore it. That's right. That's the right answer. You don't need to sign it. And it wouldn't matter if you did sign it. Okay. Just because you sign it doesn't mean it doesn't change the law that your income's protected. It's still protected. Okay. She said they have the car. She should not worry about it. Okay. And that's the only question she wanted answered. But it looks like a few months later she called back and she was sued and asked some questions. I don't know if it looks like so this person, a lot of people that contact helps, sometimes they'll communicate with us for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. We enroll people that talked to us 2 years ago, and finally they realize, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I need helps, and so we enroll them in helps. And this person originally contacted us. Gosh, when was it here? I don't know. Looks like over a year ago. So finally, we talked to this person today with her spouse and explained everything, and they enrolled together so they don't have to deal with the debt collectors harassing them and bothering them. And that's what helps does. So if you're in that position, and you can always call and talk to us, and we're glad to answer your questions. There's no pressure to enroll in helps ever. It's not what we do. We want people to understand what we do, and the cost is minimal. But we're here to protect you, and you can always have someone to call if you have questions. And it started out with this person with a repossession, and then it progressed to some demands and finally a lawsuit, and finally decided we don't want to deal with it anymore. And it looks like they have some other debt that they're dealing with now they don't have to worry about. Okay. I've read that I could be responsible for my husband's medical bills if I sign the paper when he is admitted. If he is unconscious, should I have a lawyer? Well, okay. Doesn't matter if you sign the paperwork or not. What's the important thing to remember is that if you have protected income like Social Security or a pension, it's protected. And so if there is medical debt that you might be responsible at some point in the future, then they can't do anything about it. Okay, even if they sued you, they can't collect from you. It's protected. Now, a lot of states have what's called a family purpose doctrine. So that means if a member of the family incurs a debt, a medical debt specifically, then the other spouse is responsible for it. Okay, they don't even need to sign for it. They're responsible for it. In a few states, then a medical debt is only the responsibility of one of the spouses. But in most states, it's going to be responsible for both the spouses. But you kind of focus on the wrong thing here. You got to focus on not whether you owe the debt, but is my income safe and protected? And if you get retirement income, it is safe and protected. And your other assets will be protected under state law or otherwise, as I explained earlier. So it's not going to, we don't want your husband not to get medical treatment because you didn't sign the form. They would never do that anyway. But, and you're not going to need an attorney to do, I mean, you could talk to an attorney, but you don't really need one. Did you understand that? I think you did. Is that, sometimes I'll tell seniors, I say, so you have all this debt and you have all these problems. What's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? And it usually, well, they could sue me, Eric. Okay. They could get a judgment against you. Okay. That's the worst thing. But can they take your money? And the answer is, no, I guess not, Eric, because you explained how my Social Security is protected, my pension's protected. Could they take it out of your bank account? No, Eric, you explained to me that the money in my bank account, whatever I get in federal funds like a Social Security or a federal pension or whatever, twice that sum is protected automatically, even if other monies are in there. So the worst thing happened, there is no worst case scenario. They can't take your money. It's going to be available for your needs. Now, are you going to hear that if you call a debt management company or debt consolidation company or debt settlement company? Or are you going to get on the National Council on Aging website? Or if you're going to read an article from USA Today that talks about seniors finance? No. There's a concerted effort by banks, debt collectors, credit card companies, even debt settlement companies, even debt management companies that are supposedly nonprofit, to hide the fact from seniors that their income is safe and protected, and if they can't afford to pay the debt, they don't need to pay it. And their money's protected in their bank account. They don't publish that information. Instead, they steer them to debt management or debt settlement or whatever, tell them to get a job or go without to pay a debt they don't have to pay. Okay. Yeah, I belonged to a credit union for 30 years, and my husband used to be a director there. Credit unions are considered communities, and it's a pool of money from each other. That's exactly right. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, except if you owe money to the credit union. Then it can become very personal for the credit union. That's where the problem is. I don't have any problem with credit unions, except that if you owe them money, it's not the place you want to owe money to. First, if you owe them money and you can't pay it, they're eventually going to kick you out. They're going to try to take money out of your account. They can become pretty aggressive about that. And maybe the reason is because it's a pool of money of their members. Okay. I could go on and on about credit unions. Okay. And I don't mind people who have credit unions. If you have a credit union that you bank at, that's great. But if you owe them money and you're not going to pay it, then you're going to probably want to go to a different institution because you're going to find out you're going to have to anyway. I could tell you lots of credit union stories. But I don't want to offend people. Well, maybe I do. Some people I want to offend. Not anyone here, but I could. Yeah, Kathy talks about her credit going back up. Yeah, you can rebuild your credit. Your credit's based on your recent credit history. Which banks are the hardest to deal with? I don't know if there's one that's harder than another. I guess it's the one that you owe money to. It's trying to collect from you. That's the hardest one to deal with. So this person contacted us from Massachusetts. Okay, they owe about 50,000 in credit card debt and loans, and the debt is only in the husband's name. My wife has her own debt, but he's not talking about that. He's on workers' compensation. Could be another month, another year, another 3 or 4 years. And then I think I talked to this guy too. Right, I did. He had a lot of questions, different things. The paralegal said that it's difficult to direct him. He had so many questions and kept bouncing around, which is fine. I always tell our staff, I said, we be patient with everyone, no matter what. If they get angry, don't worry about it. Okay. We try to be patient with everyone. Okay. And we are. And for some reason, the phone got cut off and the paralegal called him right back. And she said he has a pretty strong accent. And she called it a gangster accent. Okay. Um, and this was on the 21st, which is a few days ago. Well, no, the 21st of January. We, we read what Helps does, and we told him what the cost would be. We have a little script that we read people after we ask them questions that talk about what we do. And then it looks like I talked to him on the February 7th. And my comment was, went over everything, including the fees. He will be calling back. Kind of a talker, but a real nice guy. Okay? And I don't, sometimes we'll make comments about clients so that the next person that talks will understand. There's different people have different needs, and some people are really analytical. They want to have everything explained to them, which is fine. That's what we do. We understand that. And so, if I can help my staff out by saying, this guy wants to know the details, then we'll give him the details. Okay. Some people don't want to know the details. They just want to know, can you help me? Can you stop the harassment? Yes. Okay. I want your help now. But people want to know the details. Some people want to know that it doesn't matter. And so we're happy to do that. And that's one reason why we're always willing to talk to you if you have questions. I tell people, my pet peeve is if someone calls back and they say, oh, I've been really, really scared. I didn't want to bother you because I knew you were busy. No, you call us. Okay? Call us if you're worried or scared. That's what we're here for. That's what HILPS was founded for. So he called yesterday. He left a voicemail and says, my name is whatever it is. I talked to you for the past 3 to 4 weeks. I just need to try to get something started here because I got too much debt. I told you before I talked to Mr. Olsen, but my number is blah, 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 blah. So we called him yesterday and enrolled him yesterday. So you're talking about debt settlement and banks. Banks normally don't settle debt. I mean, they may, if they turn over to collector, it's possible, but normally they don't. If you're ever behind on a debt and you call the bank and say, will you settle it? Well, everyone would do that. And so they normally don't do that. Okay. Is monthly adoption assistance protected? Depends on state law, but I would tell you 99.99% chance answers yes. You got to realize if it goes into an account into which Social Security is we could talk about that. It wouldn't do any good for the state to give you adoption assistance if you owe debt and allow a debt collector to take that away from you. The purpose of the adoption assistance is to help your family. So the store normally would have a law that protects that. Okay? Okay. We just got a couple more minutes and we're done for today, but we'll be here tomorrow. We'll do this Monday through Thursday. So this person called us from South Carolina. They received a lawsuit, a summons to get Social Security. They considered filing bankruptcy. They went to the bankruptcy attorney who told them that their income was protected. Good for him. Normally they will do that. You probably told him, you probably said, well, you probably can't afford bankruptcy. Your only income, Social Security, is protected. They can't take anything from you. But she could have walked out of there saying, oh no, I can't file bankruptcy. I can't afford to anyway. They can't do anything to me, but I don't want to get these calls and letters. Okay. So they found out about us, and apparently they need to move. We sent them a letter that talks, we call it a landlord letter, that would help them rent a place, that would explain to a prospective landlord that this person may have some negative entries on their credit, but all their income, their Social Security, their pension is going to be available to pay their rent because no one can take it. And we'll give that to anyone, whether they're a member of HELPS or not. We call it the landlord letter. Okay? It looks like they called back a couple hours later, ready to sign up, complete and obtain. They signed up with HELPS. Okay. So let's see if we got any more questions, because we're down here near the end. Best thing I ever learned about Social Security is that it's protected. Yeah, that is good to know, isn't it? You know, why doesn't the National Council on Aging tell people that? Why doesn't the debt management or debt settlement companies tell the people that? No, they don't. But your income's protected. And I answered the question about adoption assistance. So anyway, thanks for participating today. Good to see y'all, and happy to have you here. You can always reach out to us, 855-435-7787 or 855-HELPS-US or HELPS-US. You can always call us. You don't need to be scared to call us. We're happy to talk to you. Never any pressure. We just tell you what your rights are, what you can do. Okay, and I think you can tell by some of the comments that are HELPS. The clients that are member of HELPS are very happy that they found HELPS. Very happy. And I got 1 minute. I met with a guy yesterday, and I showed him my computer, and he's coming on a different manner. I showed him some of the YouTube video, the comments on the YouTube live videos on the comments. So press the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to our channel. But he started reading these comments on my screen. He said, "Wow, Eric, these people really love HELPS." And I say, "Yeah, they do love HELPS. We help people out." Yeah, if you owe debt and you're being harassed, and all of a sudden you're relieved of that, and you don't have to worry, and you have someone to call, an attorney you can call anytime. Yeah, it's a big relief. So thanks for participating. I'll see you tomorrow. And call if you have any questions, or you can put some comments in the comment section. It helps spread the word out about HELPS. More people find us on YouTube than any other source. God bless. Have a great day. Yeah, press the like button too. We always like likes, I guess. Yeah.